Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Melanie, your She Shed Scrapper. So today I am back with a two-page layout using the new Say Cheese Classic Pooh collection from Simple Stories. I loved these two papers when I initially saw them and love how they just kind of created a two-page layout for you. Obviously, you could use one by itself, but I loved the fact that they kind of matched each other. I will say, however, having kind of that little embellishment cluster in each corner did prove a challenge for me. This layout did not come together very easily. I say that it might look like it on camera. However, I did kind of go ahead and plan out the layout ahead of time because I have these three photos, knew I wanted to use these three photos, but couldn't figure out what to use to kind of anchor the photos to the bottom of the page. And before I started recording, I actually brought my husband over to kind of try to get his opinion, which I know he he loves, when I come inside and I'm asking his opinion on scrapbooking. We talked and I couldn't figure it out. And he's like, you know what you have in your stash. You kind of know what you have. I'm not really sure how to help you. So as I'm going through kind of what I have, I found these film strips. And I love how they are kind of translucent because I felt like it was okay then to kind of cover up a little bit of each of the clusters in the corners there. Color-wise, they matched pretty well, and so I liked that as well. And they kind of were not solid, which I appreciated. And what I mean by that is that you can kind of still see through them. I love how the background of these pages are like a map, and I really didn't want to take away from that, but knew I needed something down at the bottom, again, to anchor my photos and kind of draw your eye down, add some interest down there as well. And so I felt like the film strips really did the job well. And so, yeah, I was really happy with those. Apparently, I did not cut very straight or get a straight cut with the paper cutter, so I did end up having to trim that with my scissors. I went ahead and double matted all of the photos, and used kind of that same red that's in that strip on the left-hand side of the page. When I came inside for the winter, I brought in a couple of cardstock kind of packs. I think I got them at Joann's. And I've really been using a lot of them. So again, I realized I've been using a lot more of my stash by, I guess, kind of bringing in those pieces than what I usually use in the She Shed, which is crazy to me. But the cardstock is one of them, and then the film strips too. And then I actually just did a layout that will be coming using the My Life 365 collection, and I had acetate ephemera that from Felicity Jane that's been in my stash for quite a while, and figured out how to use two of those pieces. So I don't know, by kind of limiting maybe what I have at my disposal, I am definitely using more of my stash than, I guess, obviously not new things, but I'm incorporating them into my layouts a little bit more. One of which being the tag at the top. And actually, I forgot. I will bring in some doilies that were in my stash for this layout that I had fussy cut from an old Kaiser Craft collection. You can kind of see I'm going through. I have like a little tin, I don't know, not even a jar, just a tin with embellishments in it. And so I'm kind of going through that to see what I can use to embellish with. And I found these doilies and the colors worked so well. I was so excited because they've just been sitting there. They're all different sizes, all different colors, and really all three colors I could have made work. Like I could have made the yellow work. It's a little bit lighter than that mustard color, but if I chose to, it would have been absolutely fine. So I decided to kind of use a tag for my stash and that doily at the top as an embellishment, or a base, I guess, for an embellishment cluster. I had set 2 over to the left-hand side by the title as well, just to, I have a doily. I kind of want to incorporate that if I can in another cluster somewhere else. Just kind of what I prefer to do, I guess. I did grab out some flares from Scrap and Happy Studio as well. And right now I have one placed down on the bottom right cluster. And it says Happy, and it is, again, that perfect color. So that is another thing I've been using a lot more of, are kind of older Scrap and Happy Studio flares that have been in my stash for a while. They've been working with a lot of the collections that I am using. So I had it down there, decided that I wanted something kind of else, obviously, at the top cluster, and figured that that flare would fit really nicely kind of over top of the photo without taking away from the photo. So I am liking the fact too that this older, I say older, it's probably within the last year or so, Winnie the Pooh collection from Echo Park, color-wise matches decently. There are some colors that just don't go whatsoever, but the yellow is really nice. And then some of the sentiment. So I actually am going to use that little, I don't know if it's a journaling tab or whatever, underneath the Friends Forever, and kind of just state their names and the year that this was. These two, I don't know, this was first grade. They're in third grade now. They're in the same class. They play together all the time. And it helps too because they're older brothers. So my oldest and then her older brother usually are on the same sports teams. So on the weekends, it is almost like a free babysitter at the games. They kind of just go off and play together, and we know that, they've got each other and they are good to go. So, yeah, these two I can see being friends for quite some time. So I love the fact that we'll be friends forever is the title. So that's where I am going to commit to the placement of that little tab there. I did find a kind of saying that I liked, out of that Echo Park collection, and I'm going to try to make an embellishment cluster kind of down at the bottom of those 2 photos. I had a hard time because really I felt like I could have gotten away with maybe just the title and the 1 cluster at the top by having the 2 in each corner on the paper already. But that saying was just perfect for these 2. I can't remember what it says now, and it's too small for me to see. But goes along with like Friends Forever. So I did want to try to include that. And so you can kind of see I'm still playing around with different options, different pieces, kind of how to incorporate all of them, add to the clusters a little bit. So I did find a nice floral cluster in the Say Cheese Classic Pooh. So I am going to end up adding that to that bottom cluster underneath of that saying there. I think I do pop that saying up on some foam tape to add a little bit of dimension to the layout. I do have the foam and I do have the flare, but by having, I think, those embellishments on the paper, it does kind of lose any dimension, or as much dimension as maybe even just a regular piece of ephemera. So I did pop that up on foam tape. I added a red heart to that cluster down at the bottom, as well as a red heart at the top. I didn't realize until I started the voiceover that there is not one of those red checkered strips on the far right of the page as there is on the far left. So I think it is important with having the red and the red balloon on page 1 to kind of bring over some red on page 2 as well. So those 2 hearts add a little bit of that color to page 2. Ideally, I would have liked to sneak in some yellow at the top of the page, just to kind of incorporate all of the colors in that top cluster, but it just didn't work out that way. I, again, probably could have made a yellow doily work at the top, but didn't, I don't know, I guess love them or whatever, and just stuck with kind of that teal one. So finishing off, I guess, I do add those doilies back to the title a little bit. Again, just to incorporate some in the different, I guess, pages in different, I want the same elements across the page if I can. I did find some puffy hearts from Freckled Fawn that were a darker kind of aqua teal, and so I did end up adding one to each of the clusters on the bottom. Again, that added a little bit of dimension to those clusters that are already on the page. Added some of this string to the tag at the top, and then did end up adding a puffy heart over to the title, just to kind of make a group of 3 with those 2 doilies and then that heart. So really that is about going to finish off the layout. I do look at maybe adding a little bit more journaling. I really like this tag from my stash, but don't end up adding it to the layout. But I will link the Say Cheese Classic Pooh down below. I hope you guys enjoyed this 2-page layout and get some inspiration for using kind of those images that are already on the paper, and kind of how to add to it or how to work with it at least. But I hope you guys enjoyed, and we will see you next time. Bye, guys.